So Kim, I am so excited to have you on because I am a huge fan of failure and what it can teach us, mistakes and what we can learn from them. And in your book, you talk about it, and you started, Kim, 9 companies. That is staggering. I mean, that's a lot.
Oh
And
my God.
your book is everything. And now drinks. It's crazy. You have done some remarkable things. But Kim, as you talk about, which I think is so interesting, success is built on a pile of mistakes. What is, Kim, the mistake that changed you the most?
Well, I've made so many. So I think the first mistake, looking back, what's the biggest mistake I made, honestly, was waiting to feel ready. Like waiting to feel ready to start my first company. I had no money. I had no qualifications. I had no experience being a CEO, and I just thought I'd wait it out until I got enough experience, enough confidence in order to be able to make that leap. And then you realize you'll never be ready, ever.
Yeah,
Especially
right.
as an entrepreneur. You're never ready. And even if you think you are, by the time you jump in, you'll definitely find out very quickly you are not. So I
Right.
think the biggest mistake I made was waiting and waiting and waiting for the moment when you think it's going to be perfect. And I'm a perfectionist by nature, so that moment actually will never come. And then having the realization that, and actually I learned really early on, I was listening to this great Marine Corps general talking about the 70% rule. And so in battle, he was saying that if you're 70% ready to move, because you never have enough time to make, you never have enough information to make a great decision. So you just have to have enough confidence at 70% to go. And I thought, if this guy, I was 23. I'm like, if he's using this for battle, I can use this for my startup.
Sure. Right. Right. If
Yes,
he's
right?
using this 70% rule to pick off the bad guys,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
can
my
probably.
internet startup is 70% ready to go. So I use that, and I still use it today because everything I'm doing, I'm not ready to do, but I do it anyway because I'm 70%. I have the confidence to know I will figure it out along the way.
How did you learn, or how do you learn to ignore the gut maybe that's pulling you to say, I don't know yet, or the doubt, or even the people that love you so much around you that might be saying, I don't know if you should leave that sort of secure situation and go over here to this other clunky one. How do you learn and know when to trust that it's time to go, or know that you're even at 70%?
Yeah, looking back, I think for me, because there's always going to be naysayers and critics and the dream killers, that tell you you can't, you won't, you shouldn't. But then I realized after a lot of time that they're not me, and they were self-imposing their own limiting beliefs on me because it's what they couldn't do. And so I had to make sure that I wasn't listening to someone that hadn't been where I wanted to go. And usually
Sure.
that's the people that are criticizing you. They've never done it, and they're telling you why you can't do it and you won't do it. I've never met a really successful person to tell me, Kim, you can't do that. They're like, you definitely can do that, no matter what
Yeah,
it is. Right?
yeah, yeah. That's no question. That's so true, right? Why are you listening to somebody that hasn't done it before, right? Or
Right.
can't bifurcate their own limiting beliefs. What do people get wrong about failure?
The biggest thing that I think people get wrong about failure is thinking failure makes them a failure. Like just because you fail does not make you a failure. That's a circumstance. That's a chapter in your book. And so many times we then see ourselves as a failure and never actually move on from that moment. But again, failure doesn't make you a failure. You have to be able to rise again. And I think over my career, having had so many failures and so many setbacks and so many challenges, if I just quit when I failed, I wouldn't get very far.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and we know, right, that the world sees the highlight reels. They see the Instagram moments, as I think I've heard you say, and yet there is so much clunky failure, misses along the way. For me as a sports agent, and obviously in the world, I see the hiccups are constant. It's the ones that persevere. I mean, if you hit 300 in baseball, you're probably going to the Hall of Fame, right? If you
Oh,
do it long enough, and
yes.
you're 30% of the time you're successful. So How do we reframe moments of failure, Kim, to allow us to go forward as a better version of ourselves? How do we unpack the moments, learn from them, lift them up, and move forward with the learning from the quote unquote failure that really is an opportunity for growth?
Yeah, I think to your point, everyone talks about the successes and the highlights. And I mean, honestly, that's why I wrote this book, Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire, because I'm going to talk about the messy middle, what no one wants to talk about. Like, no one wants to hear, Kim, you sold your company for 235 million bucks. They want to hear, Kim, what really happened? You know, like what was behind the scenes? I'm going to tell you, it was a mountain of mistakes that I built my career on. And knowing that with every mistake, I was one step closer to success. And I thought about that, and I still do, because I'm still making so many mistakes, but knowing if I learn from it, if I grow from it, and not letting it define me makes me 10 times more likely to be successful. It's the giving up that makes you a failure.
Yeah.
The quitting.
Sure. Keep going. Keep going. Failure's feedback. I often
Yes.
I often say, what do leaders maybe get wrong about it? And what can we as leaders, people as leaders, be it at home or in a work environment, do better so that the people that we lead know they're safe if they fail, because it is feedback, and how to level back up though from it, learn from it, and show back up better.
I think from a leadership perspective, it's enabling your teams to fail. Because right now, in the world of AI and everything moving so quickly, if we do nothing, we are failing. So we need to encourage innovation, creativity, new ideas, new thoughts, and speed will be very important. And if we're always trying to not fail, we will never truly become successful, because we're just thinking inside the box. We need to think outside the box in order to be able to differentiate ourselves, to truly find that greatness. And so if leaders could encourage more, listen, I'm not saying you should fail twice the same way, right? Obviously, but you know, people are going to make mistakes, but they're going to learn from them, they're going to grow from them, and we need to encourage out of the box thinking.
Is there any tactic that you use as a leader to help people, to help leaders with their people when a moment of failure maybe happens, right? Where something just didn't really go the way people expected it to go? Is there questions that you should ask as a leader to help the people that you lead learn from it, that will support them in that journey?
Yeah, why? Let's be curious. Let's ask from a place of curiosity, and that will uncover why we made that mistake, and it likely will also give evidence to some light or moment that will give you also a new path forward, which I love to see, right? If you think about most successful companies we know, most of them have pivoted their business. Sure. And honestly, I've invested in probably 150 companies now. Probably one has not made a change in their model, in their pricing, in their customer. They've had so many different pivots. And I think we need to encourage our teams to be okay with change. That change is the only constant. So how do we embrace it as part of business?
Sure. No, it's no question. I mean, change I think creates chances for us. It creates choices, but it does. It's an opportunity to get really curious too. But so you unpacked 10 mistakes, and I think this is really cool. So one of them that really kind of caught my attention was waiting to be 100% ready, and you talked about that. But how, to me, overriding you know what, Kim, I'm going to hit pause here for a second, because I had that question scripted and then I went off the cuff earlier and did that. So my guys will cut that out. Unless is there more you want to unpack on that one, or?
I just put up mistake number 2, right? Like mistake number 2 is trying to do everything alone.
Oh my God.
Bad idea.
Yes. I mean, I know, and you unpack all these 10 mistakes, and yes, number 2, trying to do everything alone. I mean, which absolutely 100% certainly doesn't work. What did you learn about that relative to trying to do it by yourself? Because I think sometimes leaders think, well, I'll just do it myself, and then I can just get it done right, or the way I want to, or whatever. When in fact, obviously, you can't scale a business that way.
Mm-hmm. No, I learned that the hard way. When I first started my company, I was at my kitchen table. I was all alone. I was a perfectionist. Everyone told me I was going to fail. I was determined to prove them wrong. So I wanted to basically micromanage every single detail. which was not scalable. I was working, 18 hours a day, and eventually you experience burnout and you can't function because it's just not feasible to continue on like that for years and years. And I broke. My husband found me, my boyfriend then, my husband now, found me, lying in a pool of sweat on my keyboard with, the little keyboard things in my face. And, I was crying, I was sick. And he's like, why don't you just ask for help? And I had this lone wolf mentality, which I think so many entrepreneurs and so many people do, actually. Now that I'm a mother of 4 children, I see this also, just not asking for help. And you see that, or I saw that as a sign of weakness, but the reality is asking for help is a sign of strength. And I learned that a little too late, but as long as I learned it. And when I learned that, I had an amazing mentor who I eventually called, and he said, why didn't you call me earlier? And ego, obviously. I didn't call you because I wanted to do this by myself, and I wanted to prove that I could, but then I realized I can't. And there was no way I was going to scale to $100 million company by myself. It is impossible. So looking back, I would have asked for help sooner. And then once I started asking for help, my whole world changed. Because I would ask for help, and now I still do. I ask for help in every business I have. If there's an expert that knows more than I do, I'm calling you and I'm going to ask for help.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you need anything negotiated, Kim, I'm your gal. Let's go.
I love it. I will be calling you, Molly. I need a lot of negotiation, actually.
Well, and, the thing is, there is so much data, too, around people love to help. I always tell young people, ask for advice, not a job. I think in business, sometimes when you ask for the business, you get advice. When you ask for advice, you get the business. People love truly to help other people. I really believe they do. And so I think sometimes we don't like to ask for help, but the truth is the people on the other side are often honored at some level, maybe even to have the opportunity to support you in something that you're pursuing. So I love that, and I couldn't agree more. And that's an important one, by the way. My husband and I have three children, Kim, and we know this, right? Moms, we think we can, we got this, right? We want to muscle through, and it's okay to ask our kids for help, our spouse for help. I mean, that is a critical thing versus trying to do it all ourselves, no question. Mistake number 6 I thought was really cool too. How do you know when to keep pushing through resistance versus when it's time to redirect? And you talk about the companies that you have invested in, and that many of them, all of them essentially have pivoted at one point or another. I mean, clearly, obviously, Blockbuster, oops, we could go on and on. How do you as a business owner, as an investor, know when to pivot and when to grind? Because I think it's for high achieving people who know how to grind, who know how to do the 18 hours, but then eventually finds their face on a keyboard. How do we know when it is time to really pivot and when it is time to go, no, this is my dream and I'm going to get it done? And because we hear those stories too, right? Yeah. But it's a tough thing to delineate between at times.
It is. And I think if you look back to your point, Twitter started as a podcast platform and YouTube started as a dating site. Think of how far some of these companies have come, right? And when I look at the companies I've invested in, the companies that I mentor, and the entrepreneurs that are building, it's clear when they need a pivot, because either A, their growth has slowed significantly, their growth has declined, or they have no money and no revenue and no growth. And in that case, it's a hobby, not a business. So we need to change course. And it's about being honest with yourself. We're in the business of making money. If you can't make money, it's time to pivot. If that is your ultimate outcome
plan.
Yeah. Right. If it's not, then call it a hobby and we'll just amazing. Right. But if if our goal is to create a business, the objective is to make money and to grow. Mm-hmm. So if you're not, it's time to pivot, right? And there's, amazing. I talk about 5 pivots in the book, right? And it's like, maybe it's a customer pivot, maybe it's a product pivot, maybe it's a pricing pivot. There's so many different ways that you can pivot your product or service in order to be successful, that it's actually a mindset shift that you need to think about and be open to, right? I think the biggest challenge is actually in your own mind, getting over, it's not what I thought it was going to be. It's
Right.
actually could be something different.
Sure. Yeah. And there's something, and I can't remember what it's called right now, but there is something that is, it sort of aligns with the fact that if it was an idea that you had and you really thought you can hang on to it longer than you should because it was something that you thought was going to do something and it's not doing it. And so you unintentionally maybe are more magnetized to the outcome than you should be when it in fact is time to pivot, which is hard to do, right? We know that as human beings. Is there an example of a business that you can kind of get me inside of that maybe you've invested in, maybe it was one of yours where you found yourself at a point and you evaluated that situation and you pivoted? And what were the questions that you asked yourself in that moment? What were the ways in which you sort of navigated that change, that pivot, and then what came out of the other side of that?
Oh my gosh. Well, we could talk about the one that I'm currently making. So I have this tea company, it's Junie, which is amazing. But I have to tell you, in all honesty, and this is where you really have to know, entrepreneurship is hard. This is the third name we've had. So this isn't like it
Right.
started with a name, right, called Sama. And it was a hot tea. Now it's a cold tea. And so we pivoted the business a lot because we're meeting the consumer where they're at. And what we found after launching, because we are a tea company, we're trying to disrupt the tea company or the tea industry with adaptogens like ashwagandha and lion's mane and reishi mushrooms. So whether the form was correct, right, hot or cold, still it's the same vision, right? So we were open to how do we, people probably have 1 cup of tea a day. They have 8 beverages, like cold go beverages. So
Wow.
the pivot from hot to cold was a huge win for us as a company. And then 3 name changes. People would have probably stopped after 1 because we had some trademark issues. We went 3 times. So your vision in what you're creating has to be so clear and you have to be so confident in it that regardless of circumstance, setback, or roadblock, you keep going. And I think that's what's really important. It wasn't that the universe is telling you to stop. It's that things are happening and you have to have the tenacity to move forward regardless of circumstance.
And how did you put it out on the market as a hot tea and then people loved it but they wanted cold? Like, kind of get me inside of, I mean, because I think
Yes.
it's often hard particularly when you're going B2C and you're pushing out a product for consumers. If you come out of the chute and it's okay, second and third tries can be tough, right?
Yeah.
Get me inside of sort of that sort of unwind or
Yeah.
sort of the launch of that and then the pivoting of that.
Yeah, we launched during COVID with the hot tea and it was amazing. They're so delicious. And the feedback was that actually, yes, we wanted them in a RTD, which is a canned version. And could we just change the mix? And listening to the market, yeah, like same ingredients, would just change it to a cold RTD tea. So it was listening to the feedback of love this, tastes amazing, but I want grab and go. I want to be able to have it anytime. And I think that's really important to listen to the customer, right? If I just said, no, you're wrong, then
Right.
my business wouldn't
Right.
be where it is today. But I listened, took in the feedback, and then pivoted.
Yep. Yep. No, listening to our customer. I mean, I think they tell us so much, no question. Number 7, I thought was cool. Picking the wrong PPI. Talk to me about that.
Gosh, you mean picking the wrong people all the time, right?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me do that. Do you know what? I landed from Vegas late last night. Can you tell I haven't slept? So, and I had
Let me
people.
see.
That's
Picking the wrong
so
people.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes. And so one of the other ones, number 7, picking the wrong people. I mean, we know that people are obviously essential. It's sort of a play off number 2 at some level. Get me inside of that a little bit as it relates to the mistakes that you made there, what you learned from it, and how we can take that and apply it to our own lives.
Oh, think of how many, yes, picking the wrong people. I'm sure so many people listening right now can think, have they picked the wrong partner, picked the wrong relationship, picked the wrong employee, picked the wrong friend? And really knowing that they looked perfect on paper, right? Either the resume, best degree, great great work history. They look so good, or online they look so good, and then the reality comes in and it's terrible. I've picked so many of the wrong people, and the POP is terrible. And once you get them in, it's even harder to get them back out, right? Because then you have to admit to yourself and everyone else that you picked the wrong person.
It's hard.
It's hard.
And what do you do when you find yourself in that moment? Because that's a heart and a soul there. That's a person that's excited about being a part of and on the bus. That's a hard thing, I think, for leaders. How do you navigate that as a leader relative to creating clarity, accountability, support, all of the things that are so needed when maybe in your head and heart you're starting to wonder, is this going to work or not?
Yeah. For me, I love to give a chance, right? So clear direction, hope. Again, but hope's not a good strategy. I think as soon as you know, it's time to actually make a change. And the challenge is, again, when I had picked the wrong people, then I have to tell my team and be vulnerable and tell them I actually made a mistake and I picked the wrong person. It's not going to work out, and we'll find someone new. But usually just hold on, because you don't want to let's just say it's even in a relationship. You introduce them to all your family and friends, and then you're like, oh, not the right person. Okay.
Yep.
It's hurting you more to stay than to go. Or it's hurting you more to keep them than to have them leave. And the reality is everyone is going to be so much happier, because if you know it's not working, they know it's not working too.
Well, and truthfully, probably you're hurting them, right? Which is obviously critical. So if someone's listening and they're terrified of making just a wrong decision in life, what's a reframing that has helped you take the next step? Like when you're not 100% ready, but you really just got to sort of take that next step. Because I have always said, and I believe that confidence comes through action. You can't sit in a corner and think your way to being confident. You have to sort of go and do, fail, recover, repeat, right? Yeah. So where does that come from, though? Because it's got to come from inside. They've got to want to own that. How do you help somebody take that next step? Maybe if there's somebody listening that wants to, has this side gig that is doing well and they want to make it their whole thing, what would you tell them to take that next step?
Well, I think first it's in your mind, you're thinking all the fears. What's the worst thing that could happen to you? And the reality is 97% of the time, it never happens. So let's just use 97% of the time, the worst thing that you think is going to happen is not going to happen. So now why don't you think of the best thing that could happen? The probability of that is actually much higher. But we train our brain to always see the negative, always see the downside, always see the risk. I get it. But why don't we train our brain to think the opportunity, the possibility that it could work, and then have the confidence to take that leap? So I think reminding ourselves that the percentage that this fear is going to happen is so low. And that's why everyone doesn't do anything, but they forget to think of the actual numbers behind that, the data that proves it's likely not going to happen anyway.
Sure. Well, and fear, I've often found it's sort of fun and interesting, right, to support somebody in that by truly walking through what is the worst case scenario, right? Like, because oftentimes it's really not that bad. And if you sort of put yourself there and walk through it, you can begin to maybe normalize it a little bit, zoom out a little bit, have a little perspective around it even potentially. So I think it's hard, but it's essential. When you think about, you work with so many entrepreneurs. I mean, you've got this killer. I can't wait to give you my address off the, because you're gonna hit me up, and I'm pumped because I love all that stuff. What do you look for when you invest in a business? What are the things that are most important to you? What are critical for you as an investor?
I invest in really early stage companies. I love the beginning. That's like my favorite part, before it's just an idea and we haven't even brought it to reality. So I'm investing really early on. But what I'm looking for is the person. The person is the number one predictor of the success or failure of any business, especially at the early stage where there's basically just you. So I'm looking at an individual and I'm looking number one, do they have a vision? Like, what is the vision? Is it crystal clear? How clear is it? Because it's so important to know where you are today to where you want to be, right? And when I look back at all the companies I've invested in, so there's 5 things. One, having clear vision. 2 is having passion. And passion is not, I love it. Passion is a Latin root word of pain or suffering. So what are you willing to suffer for? And that means late nights, weekends. You got to give things up in order to be really successful. It's just, it's the reality.
Sure.
Taking that first step, right? Number 3 is action. You have to be willing to take the first step. So if you come to me, you pitch me your idea, and then I ask you if anyone's even tried your product, and you're like, no, I haven't even made a MVP, which is a minimum viable product.
Right.
Obviously, your dream is just a dream, right? You didn't have the courage to actually create something, or even take it to the, you don't have to take it to the, take it to the farmer's market. You just have to take it next door and try to sell it. Like, I want to know that you've actually taken an action to see if there is a consumer that wants to buy what you're selling. And then 4th is resilience. And I think it's really important that or I know, you're going to get knocked down. Things are going to happen. You're going to have to change business model. You're going to have to pivot. And do you have the strength to keep going after everyone else likely would have given up? Because that's what it's going to take to be successful. Sure. And the 5th is really grounding yourself in your relationships. It's like, do you surround yourself with inspiring, supportive individuals that challenge you, but also demand you live up to your greatest potential? Because there is nothing more energizing than surrounding yourself with people that believe in you and that are supporting you to achieve your dreams.
Sure. 100, no question. I mean, that is essential, right? But you can't have all the people saying yes either, right? You want some people that are giving you some. So when you I think about the tea, right? And sort of right at the beginning of COVID, but now that product you shared with me, I mean, it is everywhere, right? I mean, it's in Whole Foods, it's in Costco, it's in pick and outlet, Sprouts, right? Like Publix. That's amazing.
Yes. It's been amazing.
What were get me inside of the early stages of that process from, idea, because there's just, the world is full of ideas, right? Like I have a daughter, one of our 3, who, I mean, every day she thinks of one unbelievable idea after another, and they're all like solid, and they're anchored in a gap in the market that she sees, that she's like, what if this it went with this and we could do that? And that's a really solid idea. She's in college, but it's one thing to have an idea, and it's a whole nother deal to roll up your sleeves and get it there, right? Relative to unpacking, creating a business that can scale, and getting an MVP, as you said. So I'm just curious, because I've never taken a product, physical product, to market. What's that look like for you? Like, if you said to me, Molly, here's the ABCD for a remedial Big Ten college student athlete grad like me.
Yeah. I mean, number 1 is you have to know what you want to create. So for me and my co-founders, knowing that tea is very authentic to them, and having that ritual with their families and with each other, because they don't drink, and having the expertise in Ayurveda, and knowing how great adaptogens and nootropics are for you, and wanting to disrupt an industry. I'm a tech entrepreneur for 20 years. So if you would have told me I'm a tech entrepreneur going to into a tea category, I think this is crazy. However, it is a disruption, and that's where I'm best. So looking to disrupt a category was really exciting to me. So first is having that vision, and then bringing it to life. And that's where I have some amazing mentors. And I think everyone needs a mentor. So I have someone in the beverage industry that's been in the beverage industry for 30 years. Wow. That is my mentor. And having that is a game changer. And statistically, 93% of millionaires have mentors. So think of Steve Jobs, think of Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, they had great mentors. And
100%.
So if you have a great idea, again, you're not going to get there alone. How do you find someone else that has the expertise that can help you bring it to life? And I think that's really important. So for me, I then found someone to partner that would help me that had the experience, that could skip a lot of lines, that could help me bring it to life, which was amazing. And then it's about just tenacity. I mean, you got to get in store and you got to sell. I mean, this is a sales, Molly, you got to get
Yeah.
selling. I think that's,
Sure.
you live and breathe the product and be open to customer feedback. And I think for us, we listened to the customer. We had sugar, like 4 grams of sugar. Then we dropped the sugar because the customer didn't want. Now it's 0 sugar. So really listening to the feedback from a customer perspective and, iterating really quickly. And I think it's really important. Like, I hear you. Consensus is wide. Let's make a change and let's see if it increases the sales, and being open to that. I think that's the biggest thing, is being open to change. Not because you think you should change, but because the customers
Yep.
think that they'd like your
Yep.
product better if you made a change.
Yeah. I love to ask myself often, what is the most common problem that how do I say it? Wait, that my guys can edit this. What is the most common problem that shows up the most often with most of my clients? What's the most common problem that shows up most often with most of my customers or clients? I think that's a really cool question to ask ourselves, because it begins to dial you in maybe to the most important change or pivot that needs to happen.
Yes, and for us, think of it like our drink is a substitute for, let's just say, first tea that has loaded of terrible sugars and calories that you shouldn't have anyway. This is like 5 calories. It is a substitute for an afternoon pick-me-up because it still has a cup of green tea, right? So you could still drink it right now, and it tastes amazing, and it's low in calories. So for me, it's organic. It's good for you. Like, I could drink 7 of these and it'll be like a great drink for me. So for me, as a working mom, like trying to just manage everything I'm doing, gives me a great opportunity to have something that I think a lot of other moms are looking for too, just as alternative to soda.
100%. Yeah, no question. Well, healthy is obviously, and there's a lot of, I mean, I'm already a fan. I mean, 10 calories and all kinds of goodies in it. I love it. So I love it. You dedicated your book. My husband and I have 3 daughters, and you dedicated your book to your children, which I think is really cool. How do you encourage your kids to embrace mistakes and view failure as an opportunity, as fuel? We live in a world, I think, that because of Instagram and all of the highlight reel world that we live in, I think it's harder and harder for kids to embrace making mistakes and the failure and the power in it, because it is 100% a ticket to growth, a one-way ticket to growth. You got to do it. How do you encourage your kids to embrace it?
I mean, for us, I wrote a book, and now they
I know,
can read.
Beyond, write a book about it. You make them read it. You better, girl.
We read a book. So they're like, everyone makes mistakes, Mom. Everyone makes mistakes. Everything they do, they just tell me it's a mistake. I'm like, yes. So now it's part of our, how we talk. I mean, last night at dinner we were talking about, like, oh, don't worry, Mom, it's just a mistake. It's okay. So now it's now become normalized, honestly. And when I grew up at my dinner table, my dad we'd always talk about like the worst thing that happened to him, because he was an entrepreneur. So we'd always talk about the worst thing that happened, worst thing that happened, worst thing that happened today. And it normalized failure for me at a young age. Like, we're doing the same thing for our children, which is making it okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes them. And honestly, my hope is that they don't stop making them, because they will stop growing if they stop making mistakes, to your point. It is a one-way ticket to growth, right? Like it or not, the mistakes will not break you. They will make you into the person that you could become if you are courageous enough to take that first step.
Yes, I love it. So as we close out the year, what's one practice to look back and one practice to maybe look ahead, whether that's personal or professional, or maybe even both, when we think about this mindset shift relative to mistakes and the opportunities that they bring us to learn? What's one practice maybe that you use, Kim, to look back and one to look forward?
I do a lot. I mean, I love this time of the year. It's my favorite time of the year because I do a lot of, focus for the next year ahead. And so for me, I do a couple of things that I'm doing right now. We could do them together. It's so fun. Number one, I come up with a word of the year, and I look back and I think of what was a word of the year I had for last year. Did it did it guide me? Did I make decisions against it? Was it helpful? And then I make a new word and think about how am I going to use that as my North Star and help direct every decision I make. And so I think that's really important. It's such an easy thing that you can do by yourself, with your kids, with your family. It's fun to do it with your friends to really understand where they are in life. And I think, it could be, I want to find love, and love's your word, or I want to give, and give's your word, or my word for next year is expand. I want to expand. I think it's really important to me. So one is having a word of the year and reflecting on the word that you had and the word that you're going to use for the year ahead. The other thing I love doing, I love creating a vision board. I'm having a vision board party
You
next
are?
week. Yes,
Let's
I
go.
love.
What's your
Yes,
address?
you're invited,
I'm coming,
Molly.
girl.
Yeah, come over. Oh my gosh, I've done it for decades.
That
to be
is
honest
really
with you,
cool.
Mom.
My girls do
Yes.
that. My daughters do the vision board. I think it's just really cool. What's your
It is
process?
so fun. Okay, so here's what I do. I invite all my friends over.
I
I get
gotta
a
get
1,000
prepared.
magazines. Yeah, you get a lot of magazines. I like the old school way of doing it because
Oh,
it's the
cool.
subconscious.
Yes.
If you sit down and you just sit there with your friends and you rip out pictures, words that really call to you, and you don't think about it, right? Don't think this is what I want in 20, the next year ahead. You just think this is word, I don't know why this, and you start ripping them out, and then you put them on the board, and it's really like your subconscious sharing what it wants to create in the year ahead. And I love the process. I've used it so many times. With my mom, we just sit around and do this with all of
Oh,
my
that's
friends, and then we
awesome.
still do this. Now my mom doesn't live with me, but she'll do it on the same night with her friends, which is so fun. And it's such a great ritual. And then to come back a year later and just
I love that.
usually, like,
Yep.
vision boards come to life. At
Yep.
97% of my vision boards have happened, and because I then put it like right in front of me every day, and all I do is see it, see it, see it, see it. It's
Yep.
amazing
Yeah. That
how
is
that's
cool.
conscious, right?
I,
So
I
yes,
love I mean, I'm 54 years old, right? So I'm down for the ripping out of the magazine. I mean, my girls do it, drag and dropping on Canva, all these cool photos, but I'm with you, right? I'll bring some magazines, Kim. I got you.
okay, good. You're in. You're in. It's so fun. So I think having just some of those rituals, and the best ritual I can give that I've done is called my life audit, and this is what I do every single year.
Cool.
Is It's so easy. So here's what you do: you make a list of the 10 people you spend the most time with. So simple, right? And then you make 2 columns. That you look through. You say column of a plus, column of a minus. The pluses. Think of each person as you're going through. Do they energize and inspire you? Are they supportive of you? Or are they a minus? So when you're with them, they drain your energy and you feel so uninspired. Or think of if they call you on the phone and you don't want to pick up, that's a minus. And then audit them out. I literally just decide to spend more time with the pluses and not a lot of time with the minuses. And eventually, if you do this over a long period of time, it's amazing how your circle really becomes such a great reflection of who you want to become and where do you want to go and who you want to spend time with, because
Sure.
you're just spending time with the pluses.
It's funny when I do keynotes, I often talk about sort of who are those people that you see their name and you want to hit decline, and I always think, are they better than their problems, right? Like, do they deserve all of your energy because you're probably giving that potential? And are they better than their problems? Do they deserve all of that? And I think, I sort of call it an energy audit, Kim, too. And I think it's really important. Both, I think it's really healthy with people, but I think you can do it sort of physically, you can do it mentally. What gives you energy physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. How do you make sure you do more of the pluses, right? And less
Yes.
of the negatives. That's a really cool way to look back at the year, but also most importantly, look forward to
Yes.
the year too. That's
Gosh. Yeah, don't make the same mistake twice, right? I mean, we
right.
already hanging out with
Yes.
these people. Let's start hanging out with new ones. This isn't working for me, right? And it makes space for new people to come into your life. I think that's the best gift, is having the space to, as we get older, you're so used to hanging out with the same people, but the opportunity and the energy and the fun comes from the new people that you'll meet.
Sure. And your book came out, The Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire. The title is pretty cool. In the cover, the whole thing, there it is. I love it. It's good. It's solid. So, okay, Kim, I end with rapid fire, so I'm going to hit you with a couple quick ones. Are you ready? You
Yeah,
seem
ready.
Like you're always sitting on go. Favorite book?
Oh, Think and Grow Rich. Love that book. Love it.
Yeah, sure. Best piece of advice, Kim, that you've ever received, ever.
No one is successful alone.
What's a habit or a practice that's improved your life most recently?
Exercise.
You look like you've always been exercising.
Yeah, but now I'm just like I'm into
You're
biohacking
taking it
now.
up a notch.
I'm taking it up a notch. Or maybe actually I would take the sauna. I just got a sauna. Love it. Obsessed.
No, girl, we did too. That was my husband asked me last year, what do you want for Christmas? And it's epic, right? It's
epic.
It's really so good for you. It's so good for you. Good for you. How much time do you spend in them a day?
20 minutes.
Yeah. At what?
I usually work out and then I spend the 20 minutes.
Okay, got it. What's your temperature?
I got the infrared, so 140, I think, 137.
Yeah. Awesome. And then you jump into the cold plunge.
Actually, I got a hyperbaric chamber. So I've really gone down the biohacking. I've gone so far down. We could have a whole conversation of my biohacking ideas. I'm like,
hey, listen. Hey, whatever it takes, right? I mean,
oh my,
kind of
well, health is wealth, right? So you got to like double down. If you don't feel great, you will not be able to be your best in so many areas of your life. And so that's why I'm always prioritizing health as like a number one most important thing, because if you start with a great foundation, you can do so much more for your family, your kids, your business.
Yep. I had a client that slept in one of those hyperbaric chambers too much, and it sort of impacted his marriage. So don't sleep in that thing, okay, Kim?
I don't. It's a double. It looks like a plane, so we could. But my husband is like, "You go alone."
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay, so the show's called Game Changer. So who or what is a game changer who inspires you, and why?
I love Mark Randolph. Actually, the co-founder of Netflix, wrote the foreword for my book.
Guy. He did.
And he is such an amazing, inspiring individual. And, I love the story because he really puts family first. And I think that's what's most inspiring to me, is because I love my family. And I think that's such it's part of who I am. And he tells a story about every Tuesday, regardless of what he was doing in any of his companies, he would always go home for a date night with his wife. And what an amazing individual that could have so much success, but still be so grounded and stay married to the same person, have 3 wonderful children. And for me, like what an inspiration.
Mm-hmm. It's one thing to have success and a whole nother thing to have fulfillment too.
Yeah. And he's got such a great relationship with his kids. And for me, he's such an inspiration. And I've had the pleasure of spending so much time with him. And I just feel, so blessed. So he is an amazing individual. Game changer.
He's a game changer. I couldn't agree more. Kim, The Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire. It's a great read. 10 mistakes. Hard to believe you've made that many, girl. Thanks so much for coming on. Super fun.
Thank you so much for having me, Molly.